This podcast is brought to you by Hoare Chartered Accountants. Hoare Chartered Accountants are based in Galway City and are a leading provider of audit, accountancy and taxation services. For more information, visit hoarecharteredaccountants.ie. You're welcome along now to the Maroon and White pod. So we have a bumper show coming up today. I'll be joined by Mághnus on Spitdale footballer and former An Caharu manager, and we'll also be joined by Patrick Marco Fátharta, former Donegal Moore senior footballer and former Illanorn manager. Patrick Mark was in charge of Illanorn last year. So they'll be looking back on round 3 of the group action, as well as looking ahead to the draw in the preliminary quarterfinals in the senior and intermediate football championship, and we also touch on the junior football championship, how that is progressing in the North and West Board championships there. But before we do that, I will now bring the latest edition of the power rankings between senior, intermediate and junior. So in first place, we're Main South Silnock 14 points to 10 winners over St. Michael's at the weekend. Just got the job done, did enough in the end. We've seen players like Robert Walzer get a game time, and he really impressed for them in attack over the weekend. We still didn't see Tom Clannon and Robert Finnerty over the weekend, but they're still getting the job done without them, so they remain in first place. In second place, they move up one place. Kerfin seem to be back on track after that draw against Miltown. They're up one place and into second place. An impressive spread of scores. Dylan McHugh, Kieran Malloy, really impressive with big scores, bringing Mike Farrer on, Patrick Egan coming back too. So the county champions are in second place. In third place is Tuam Stars. They're up one place. Impressive against Down, considering Down didn't have anything to play for. Tuam didn't have anything to play for. Did rest Rory O'Connor and Shane McGlinchky, but we see how good their attack could be this year when you consider the front six of Cormac McWalter, Jamie Murphy, Ben O'Connell, Luke Davin, Jack Grugan, and Brian Mannion. It's a really impressive front six there. So they're in third place. In fourth place, down 2 places, is Mike Cullen. And that's probably because the growing list of injury concerns yet. We still haven't seen James McLaughlin, Peter Cook, and it is going to be a challenge, I think, for Mike Cullen to get all their best players back on the pitch this year. But they're still into the quarter-final, and give Carl Clancy now a chance to get some of these big hitters back on the pitch in 4 weeks' time for the quarterfinals. In fifth place, Dunmore. What can you say? Dunmore McHale's really impressive with the manner they dispatched Clare Galway at the weekend. Matthew Reddington, really impressive. Poor Costello in attack too, and Dunmore really seemed to be building nicely. So they're up one place, and in fifth place. In sixth place, Miltown. They're down one place. They'll probably be frustrated. Took the lead early on against Monivea Abbey, and I think what Miltown will be disappointed with is they've put themselves in winning situations in the last 2 games against Kerfin and Monivea Abbey, and have got draws. But still, 5 points for Miltown, remain unbeaten, and they're in sixth place. Miltown's opponents, St. James's, they're up 3 places. After letting that lead slip in round 1, James's have bounced back really well. They've got Jack O'Neill back from the States. They've got Dale Masterson and Brian Kane, who've been brought into the club this year from Clare and Kildare there respectively. So that's showing what they've added to this year. Still haven't seen Johnny Duane, but if they can get him back on the pitch too, it'll really strengthen things. But I think James is there in a good place. 8th, Uachtarard. It's an impressive victory for them over Montbellew Mylod. They probably will have frustrations with the performance though, because Montbellew definitely did have chances there at the end to win it. But I think it's really impressive for Uachtarard to get a victory like this over a big senior club. I think can really stand to them. And Eric Lee, 3 points, set up the goal for Niall Lee at the end. So Uachtarard building nicely too. In ninth place, Clannon, another victory for them, 2 out of 3. A victory over James's and Berner in the group, and Mike Cullen. They'll probably be disappointed with the manner of that defeat. But for Clannon now, it's Montbellew Mylon, and they've had battles with Montbellew Mylon in the past and haven't been able to get over them. They'll be happy where they are, but I think for Clannon, the big thing is for them now is, can they take Montbellew Mylon out of the championship this year? 10th, Montbellew Mylon, down 3 places. Probably down 3 places because it looks like they've lost Owen Finnerty now for quite a while, and he really made a big influence in that first half, and I think he's going to be a really significant loss for them. But I still think Fergal O'Donnell and the Daily, they can take some encouragement for some parts of the performances, but they definitely will need to improve if they're to get over Clannon. Clare Galway, 11th place, down one place. They'll be frustrated. They didn't really capitalise when Shane McGrath got a black card and Dunmore took control of this. So I think Clare Galway probably be disappointed with the way that game petered out. 12th then, Letcher Moore, Colin McDonagh matches Barrett. There's significant injuries for Letcher Moore. They scored 5 points, so they'll definitely be disappointed with that. They didn't capitalise on the breeze in Pearse Stadium at the weekend, but they'll need to raise it a few levels now if they're going to take Dunmore McHale's out of this championship. 13th, Monivea Abbey. What a performance from them at the weekend. They stay in 13th place, but showed incredible character in that Miltown game, and they'll have regrets that they didn't win that. But promising signs now from Monivea Abbey heading into that relegation semi-final. Monivea's Abbey's opponents in that relegation semi-final, Breathnach, they're in 14th place. They remain in 14th place there. They'll probably be frustrated in one sense that they didn't get the victory against Clannon, but 115 to 14 points, it's encouraging, and I think they've really been boosted by the return now of Keane Herndon. They're a different team with him in the team, so he'll be a boost for them. 15th up one place, St. Michael's 14-10 against South Tilnock. So I think Michaels can take huge confidence from a performance like that against South Tilnock. Gary Higgins back on the pitch too after his suspension in that game against Crossmaglen last year in the intermediate Connacht Championship. So he's a huge boost for them too, and I really feel Michaels can draw confidence. Bottom place handed down, they're down one place, and the reason for that is it's the scoring return. It's 6 points. It's not going to win you many games, and the big concern for Down is their scoring return at the minute. Damien Comer and Stephen Curley missing an attack, and I think they're two players they need because there probably is a bit of an over reliance now on Frankie Burke to get the scores. Just looking at Down, but I think if they can get more players back on the pitch for this relegation semi-final, and everyone's going to be fascinated to see can Damien Comer play some part in this relegation semi-final for Down. But they're missing Jeremy Kilcommons, Dahi Kilcommons as well over the weekend, Ethan Ford. So some big losses for them, but Down definitely need to try and get their strongest team on the pitch for this Michael's game. But the scoring return at the minute is the huge worry for them. Moving on then to the intermediate football championship, it's a strange sort of rankings to do, obviously, because you're looking at it and there's Brendan's, Spittle, Kilkerran, Clonberne, they're already through to the quarterfinals. So for that element, it's hard to sort of rank them when they're already through playing a game at the weekend, and all three of those teams lost. But I did base it on overall form across the Intermediate Football Championship. So the way the intermediate rankings are is St. Brendan's still in first place for me, defeated by Ormore Mary at the weekend, but still won their first two opening games. Still racked up, I think it was 3-9 for St. Brendan's there. So they'll want to improve, and I suppose it just shows that just because they won the first two games, they're still going to have plenty of challenges along the way. On Spiddale, they're in second place. Finian O'Lee missing at the weekend. Liam O'Keneal injured, so big losses for them. But they're forming the first two games. That obviously shows the Spittle are definitely contenders for me this year. Third, Caltra up two places. Look back to their best. That Kilkerran game was probably the wake up call they needed because there's a danger for Caltra coming in this year, getting to the final last year, but they can't really think about last year at all. So they are into third place for me. Kilconnelly fourth, up two places. I think the response since that on Spiddale defeat has been impressive. When you look at Kilconnelly's performances against Doncaster and got the job done against Glenamady. It was ultimately a second versus third game to see where they finish. They come second now into the preliminary quarterfinal draw, and a local derby with Calstrand to set it up there, but they're up two places. Kilkerran Clonberne down two places. They did have most of their, I suppose, big hitters on the pitch at the weekend, so that's why they're down two places, losing to Clifton. Cortoon, they're down two places. Adrian Verley making an appearance off the bench again. So I think the big thing for Cortoon is can they get Adrian Verley starting on the pitch because we even see with him getting the goal at the weekend. Michal Brannock's there in seventh place. They remain there. Draw with Cortoon, nothing to separate them, so that's why they remain in seventh. And then eighth, we have Illinois. They're up one place. They're straight into the quarterfinals. Stephen Joyce did a good job. I just think I had reason to have Illinois here. They've beaten Calstrand, they've beaten Gabriel's. When we see Calstrand's I suppose defeat at the weekend again. They've lost two games of that group. Gabriels have struggled. That's why I have them eight. But I definitely think Stephen Joyce has definitely got things back on track for the Islanders there. Menla down one place. Defeat to Caltra there at the weekend. They're in the preliminary quarter final, obviously now, and Kevin Murphy be looking to push things on there, but they're down one place in ninth. Curfin B, it's a team that's stacked at the minute, and they're playing Glenamaddy in the preliminary quarter final draw, and I think they're really going to fancy their chances in that one. When you look at the team overall, Barry O'Donovan, Ronan Steed, Tony Gill, Finn McIntyre, Cormac Graney, Darren O'Reilly, Gavin Kelly, like huge quality Conor Newell across that Curfin B team. 11th Castran remained there. Disappointing defeat for them really against Illinois, and when you consider the late defeat to Curfin B, I think Castran will be disappointed, but I would expect a big reaction for them now against Kilconnelly to focus the minds. 13th, or sorry, 12th is Glenamaddy. They kicked 6 points, scored 111 the last day. More encouraging signs. Uh, got McDara Garrity back on the pitch, so that's a big confidence for them. But the fitness over Connor after, I think they'll want to get him fully fit and back motoring there for Glenmaddy. 13th, or more Murray, a big win for them over St. Brendan's, and performances from the younger players like Ryan O'Donnell, Niall DePere, really stepping up at the weekend. So it has been a difficult, shall I say, championship for Ormore Mary. I don't think they could say anything otherwise. You would have expected them to be contenders with the underage success over the last few years. So it's disappointing now, but all they need to do is just win this relegation semi-final and hopefully get things back on track for their club next year. Clifton 14th, big win for them. Clifton in particular, at the weekend against Kilkirk Clonberne. Jared Gibbons really impressing there at the weekend. And Clifton, who got to the knockouts last year, didn't want to win the semi-finals, but that's the same for every club in these relegation semi-finals. On Cararua, big victory for them. James O'Flaherty returning goals for them at the weekend. He was away throughout the summer. Fionn O'Connell, Fergal O'Shea, Ethan DePere, all impressing there for Oncarrow at the weekend. And 16 Gabriel's just struggling at the minute, but they've been here before, and I wouldn't write them off either when it comes to relegation battle. Looking at the Junior Football Championship rankings, then the way this is our first edition, shall I say, of the Junior Football Championship rankings this year. Main reason for this is really because you have the Junior North and Westboard running as separate championships at the minute, and then the two winners of that will meet in the county final, and then they have to play whoever wins the Junior 2 championship between the second teams there. So it is quite a long championship, but we said we'd take a look at it now as there's been a few rounds of the groups played. So Williamstown, they're in first place, relegated from intermediate last year, but have made a encouraging start so far, and they're top of the Northboard group at the minute and look like they could advance directly into the Northboard final. Second, Killearn, last year's beaten junior county finalist, just narrowly pipped by Oncarrua, and we see what Oncarrua went on to do. So Killearn will be eager to push on this year. Third, Hepford. They're well boosted now by the return of Port Cunningham. He obviously couldn't play last year with his transfer over to Chicago there throughout the summer. So a big boost to have Cunningham back. Fourth, Father Griffin's Éire Óg. I think when you look at Father Griffin's Éire Óg across all the championships, it's the result of the weekend overturning Carnacashel, and they lost the Westport semi-final last year, so they'll be really looking to build on this result now and maybe possibly push for a Westport title. Carnacashel fifth, they got to Division 4 League final against Kilkirk Clonberne earlier in the year, and they were looking like they were strong favourites to win Westport, but I think that defeat against Father Griffin's Éire Óg is a setback for them now. Sixth, Clonberne, they actually got a draw with Father Griffin's Éire Óg early on the championship. So for Clonberne, they'll see no reason why they can't push on for a Westport title. Seventh, Ballinasloe, they still remain in the championship, but they'll need to get a result against Hepford in the final round of group action there. Eighth, Athenry, they're struggling in the Northboard Championship at the minute. And ninth is Renville, they're struggling on the Westboard side of things in the championship at the minute. But that's all on the power rankings. I'm now going to bring in Manus Brannock and Patrick Marco Fátharta to look back at the action over the weekend. So the groups have come to an end. We know who's advancing directly into the quarterfinals, who's in the preliminary quarterfinals, and who's heading for the relegation. But we will look back on the group action. Obviously, when it comes to senior, Curfin, Mike Cullen, Tuam, and Sutton Knocknacarra, they all advanced directly into the quarterfinals. So for those clubs now, they have a 4 week break, which I'm sure all those clubs will be delighted with. In the preliminary quarterfinal draw, Clannon, Montpellier, Mylaw, Dunmore, McHale's, Lettermore, Uachtar, Claregalway, Miltown, St James's, and the relegation semi-finals, which are as follows: St Michael's, Annadown, and Burnham Abbey. I know there was a bit of confusion yesterday for even people listening in at the draw on Galway FM. Some people might have thought they're just a round robin, but I can assure you it's a semi final, and whoever loses semi final goes into the relegation final. I'm joined by former Lettermore footballer Patrick Mark Fátharta, and obviously Patrick Mark was in charge of Illanorn, and of course joined by on Spidale's Mághnus Breathnach. First off, lads, before we get into Patrick Mark, conditions at the weekend challenging enough, it's safe to say.
Yeah. I was in Pierce Stadium yesterday, and it was just horrendous. Like, Let's played with a wind in the first half, and then it just turned into an absolute gale and the rain. It was tough going. Pierce Stadium at the best of times is bad, but yeah, it was one of the worst days now in there I've seen yesterday.
Yeah, was it challenge enough for yourselves, 2 minutes at the weekend?
It was, to be fair, like just the Saturday conditions were poor, like, but in fairness, we played Carrow back in Rossmuck, and to be fair to the committee back there, like the pitch was actually in immaculate condition, like, with all the rain and deluge that happened there, kind of the few days leading into it, like, but yeah, it definitely had a serious effect on most of the football games over the weekend.
If we are to look at the senior results, we'll actually start off with Group 4. Curvin, 13 points. Moore 5 points. Patrick Mark, just from listening to this game, I was in Kenny Park myself yesterday. Really seemed like Moore probably didn't capitalise on that breeze in the first half, and it was a day you just had to capitalise on the breeze yesterday.
Yeah, so it was 4-2 at half time. We had maybe two or three chances, 2 pointers, and two maybe half goal chances, which need to be taken against Corofin. Now, saying that, Corofin had no chance really at all. They got a 2 pointer, great free from Dara Silk. But yeah, we definitely needed at least four more, if not more, just to have that gap. And then at half time, there was a bit of a smozzle going in and coming out after half time. One of the Let's More players, Maliki Okulan, got a black card, and Corofin really capitalised on that 10 minutes after half time, where they got 6 points, and then that was game over pretty much.
You were just mentioning off air there, the injury list at the minute Moore have. It's a fairly stacked injury list when you consider the players that are out at the minute too.
Yeah, some of our main players, Colm McDonagh, Matheson Burreds, Kieran Burred, Damon O'Lynchy, Miles McDonagh, Dylan Shoiga, all were not able to talk yesterday. I know two of them are long term. We're hoping to get two of them back at least for the Dunmore game. As for the two, we're 50-50 now. So time will tell us, really.
What you make of Curfin yesterday?
I wasn't impressed. And that's the first time, and possibly the last time you'll ever hear that from me. It's two games now in a row where I'm not really impressed with them. They looked a bit sloppy. Now they might have been just going through the motions, getting the job done, but they were as close to full strength as could be. Bernie Power started back in goal, and they brought on Patrick Egan and Mike Farrer at halftime. So that was their full team for the second half. Now they did rely on the usuals, your Liam Silks, Dylan McHugh, Kieran Malloy, really to drag them through. But yeah, no, I wasn't impressed with them for once.
No sign of Gary Sykes yesterday?
No, he's only one now, and I don't think a good word he won't be coming back.
Man, it's like, what have you made of them so far? It's been interesting. Obviously, such a statement against Monavea Abbey the first day, second day then draw against Miltown, and even as we're referencing there, for Moore to go in 1 point ahead with the breeze wasn't going to be enough yesterday, but they still come out and get the job done. But I suppose, what have you made of Curve in early on so far?
Listen, they've topped the group, and that's kind of the first and foremost. They're in the quarterfinal. Like, you know, they were very impressive against Monterey Abbey, I suppose, the first day out. And, you know, if you're in the quarterfinal camp, it's actually great. Like that, people are almost kind of writing them off, even though they're undefeated in the club championship almost. But like they were 3 points down, game gone into the Miltown pot against Miltown. Like, and if there's anything that you've seen about Corofin down through the years, like they're never bet until the final whistle. Like, so they still have that quality there. You know, like Dara Silk's a great footballer, but like, you know, they have such leadership all over the field. Like, you know, like Liam Silk, Dill McHugh, like they're top class senior county footballers. Like, and they're able to kind of drag Corofin out of these kind of ruts as well. Like, and I know they mightn't have been too impressive maybe against Lettermore, but it was still an 8-point win. You know, it was a comprehensive win for them in the end too. Like, but all they can do is, you know, look, play who they're against, and you know they're in the quarterfinal. It's up to whoever they get in the quarterfinal to go and beat them. But at the moment, like they're still probably one of the strong favourites for Frank Fox again this year, in my own opinion.
Do you think even drawing with Miltown has it shown different signs? Like we're just thinking back to previous groups we've seen in these groups. Usually, when it's came against a team they're expected to beat, usually they have blown them out of the water.
Yeah, but I suppose for any team that plays against Corofin, it's almost like a county final when you come up against them. Like, while Corofin are looking, you know, towards the latter end of the championship, when you kind of draw Corofin, you're looking to get that scalp there. Like, and Miltown were on the verge of that scalp for themselves. Like, you know, that would have been a huge win in terms of confidence for them players, and even just kind of the mental aspect of, like, you know, that they've beaten Corofin early on the championship, that if they do come across them later on, that they can go back to that again. Like, but, you know, you always see it down through the years. Like, further Corofin go in the championship, they seem to get stronger and stronger and stronger. Like, and you know, Bernie Powers back there for them. You know, Mike Farris coming in at half time. They're quality players, like, that have been playing for the last 15 years for Corofin. Like, and the fact that they can still call upon those players, you know, it's fairly daunting for the rest of the Galway teams in the championship, I think.
Patrick, Mick, for your own lads, like after the league, everyone was probably predicting you to start at this group stage to finish second. But has it been those injuries? Do you feel, or where do you feel Lettermore are heading into the knockouts?
Yeah, I suppose they got a kick in the backside probably against Miltown. They probably thought they'd put up a better show than they did. They were well beaten. I know the scoreline was only a point in at the end, but they were well beaten. They did well now to get over Monterey, and Monterey had improved since the first game, and they even looked very good on the weekend there. But like, our lads, is all about really getting through. It's not much of a difference finishing second and third. We obviously knew top spot would be gone, but they're exactly now where they want to be, and they have 2 weeks now to hopefully clear up a few injuries and give Dunmore a good rattle.
Yeah, we were only talking off air. It's kind of brewing with Dunmore now for a while. He bet them in the intermediate final. They bet you last year, and now obviously this third time is going to be interesting.
Yeah, so it's, I think, 4 years in a row now we've played them. We had the upper hand the first 2 years. We won the championship match, the final, and then a league match. And then the last 2 years they've bet us in the league and last year's championship. So it's 2-2. So it's winner takes all next time.
Mághnus, looking at the other game, Miltown 213, Monterey Abbey 116. I was watching back the stream today of this game, and it was just absolute chaos.
Yeah, like, I suppose everybody kind of before the game would have been saying that Miltown were going to win it probably comprehensively or convincingly enough. Like, but you know, Monterey have really regrouped themselves, I suppose, since the Corofin result. You know, I seen them against Lettermore, and you know, I'd say at half time, I was watching that game, I was going, geez, you know what, Monterey have a great shot here, but Lettermore came up the blocks in the first few minutes and kind of created that buffer. Like, but you know, like, Killian McDade is a serious threat for them there. Like, you know, he almost single-handedly dragged them back. I felt against Lettermore there, got an unbelievable goal to drag them back into it. Like, but you know, they're going to go into the relegation, and you know, it's a funny enough one to say. Like, they're probably going to go into it with a lot of confidence kind of gain from their last 2 games in the group as well. But for Miltown, I'd say they were disappointed. You know, I know a few of the lads and would play with them, like, you know, the likes of Mike Martin and Mark Ayre and them, and you know, a draw for them isn't something they would have wanted. Like, they would have wanted to win that and, you know, really put the squeeze on trying to get the top spot. Like, but look, they're through. there's preliminary quarterfinals now in 2 weeks' time as well, and for them to have ran Corfin so close in the champion 2 weeks ago, to draw one of A will probably be a bit of a step down for them, almost in terms of what they expected to finish that group stage off. Like, so that result was a funny enough one, to be fair.
Yeah, it was funny even listening to Bunt after as well. Like he was, he said he was embarrassed from the Corfin result, and then you could see how proud he was yesterday. And even Glenn Kelly kicked some unbelievable 2-pointers yesterday. Brian Moore at centre forward as well, really good. Killian McDade around the middle. Like, considering how bad of a start that was, Manus, like Miltown get 1-9 early on, and Montevideo struggling to get a score on the board. To turn that around, considering what happened to them in round one in Corfin in Tuam, it shows a bit of character in this Montevideo Abbey team now.
Yeah, it definitely does. And yes, I have to say that there has to be a lot of credit going to the management as well. Like, that wouldn't have been an easy place to be in that dressing room at half time. Like, there wouldn't have been a whole lot of positives for them to take out of it. Like, it would have been very easy for them as a group of players and management maybe to down tools and say, look, we'll try and regroup for the relegation. Like, but that was a massive, massive turnaround for them, especially like with the lead that Miltown had, and to come back and, could have won it as well, in fairness. But like, wouldn't one of they kind of have the bones of a very solid team with the guys. They have Fátharta in goals. Glenn Kelly is an excellent shooter as well. Like, if you give him an inch, he's going to pull the trigger. Like, even if it goes wide or whatever, but he won't be too far off ever. And Trevor Mullins is still lording around the middle of the field as well. So they have good leaders there, and I think they'll be confident going into that relegation that they can still get out of it, I think.
For Miltown, then, Patrick Mark, like, it was so close to getting a result against Corfin. Early on, they lead in that game against Montevideo Abbey. They'll have to have regrets over the last two performances. Well, I suppose they can take massive satisfaction, obviously, from the Corfin performance, but not getting the result when they led, and they did have chances yesterday, even at the end, to win it by a point.
Yeah, there'd be serious questions asked. Like, they were 1-9 to 1 up after 24, and they were just cutting through Montevideo time and time again. So you don't know what happened to that match, but like, they probably will have to learn a lot from it. And like, they do have serious pace with O'Manion and Liam Costello up there, and then you have the two kickers in Hare and Martin. I think James is now in the preliminary.
Yeah,
they'll fancy their chances there. That'll be a cracking match, actually. But on Montevideo, like, just the brains behind the operation, Mike Farrer, are there. I think his fingerprints are all over that team. He's definitely an up-and-coming coach. I think when he's finished playing football for Corfin, we'll see him on the sideline with Galway someday. He's quality.
Yeah, like Montevideo yesterday, as I mentioned, their big performances for yourselves as well. Like, you just got over Montevideo too in round two.
Yeah, we did. We played them. Killian McDade actually played in full forward. He was a lot deeper yesterday. I don't know if he was carrying an injury now against us or what the story was, but Killian does most of his damage coming from deep. So we were fairly happy he was in on Sean Andy. But yesterday, yeah, he was pulling the strings further out the field for them.
Yeah, even yesterday, man, when O'Manion puts his second goal in the back of the net, it's 110 to 1-5, and it's 210 to 1-5. You're thinking Miltown are going to push on here.
Yeah, but that's the joys of the new game, Paul. Now, like, and even Pat Mark will say it as well. Like, even if you're 8-9 points down with 10 minutes to go, like, the game isn't over. Like, if you have a bit of a breeze at all and you kick one or two 2-pointers, keepers are struggling to get the ball out. You're winning possession again. You're pulling the trigger more. The 2-pointers have added an awful lot, I think, to the game. Definitely at club level. In terms of the excitement and everything like that, like, so games get clawed back fairly rapid now, like, so there is always that hope, because if teams sit back too deep, they're leaving them opportunities there the whole time, like, so you do need to be pressing out and being brave with your guards you're defending too, like, but yeah, it's great to kind of see these games kind of come back from the death and not seeing a complete blowout like that.
Is the weekend an indication of what's going to happen over the next few weeks? Because conditions, obviously, the 2-pointers, teams will go for them more than likely now with strong breezes, and that's what it's going to be like for the next few weekends.
Yeah, like, listen, last weekend was, it's surreal with the weather. Like, it was gale force stuff that was on the weekend, but we're going to go into tougher conditions now. Like, you're going into the kind of the winter months where the kind of the county finals and the relegations and everything are going to be sorted. Like, but it's the teams that are going to be brave and go for these opportunities. Like, when you get your chance to kick them 2-pointers, you have to go for them. When you get your 1-on-1s, you have to go for goal. Like, I think the teams that are going to win the county finals this year are going to be the teams that are the bravest implementing the new kind of rules of the game, really, to be honest.
How was it, Patrick Mac, for you even watching new rules in those kind of conditions over the weekend?
Yeah, most teams are kind of following the same pattern of like mass defense with 12 in and around the D. You're waiting for some team, which I have seen one or two teams kind of implement a slightly different approach. Like Cullen now are defending way higher at times up the pitch than most. But like even at Tramore now yesterday, even with the wind, they were inviting Corfin on, which I think if that was a knockout match, they'd probably push up a bit more. So like, when it comes to knockout football, everything kind of goes out the window after half an hour. If you need to push up, you take those risks. Whereas some teams yesterday were probably hoping that they wouldn't get that out the gate and have a bit more confidence going into the next round.
As we mentioned there, Patrick Mac, like, it's strange to say, but there's actually momentum now at Monterey Abbey going into the relegation.
Oh, massive. Like, if you take that last 40 minutes, what they won the game 115 to 1-4 or something. So they take great belief into that. I'd fancy them stay up. They've experience down there. They're playing Barn as well, though, who are after putting up a pretty good performance against Clannon. So that'll be a right match. It's all to play for down there.
Where do you think Miltown are? Obviously, we talked about the last two results, Mághnus, but where do you feel they are now heading into the preliminary against James's? I
think they're in good shape. They have serious firepower there. Like, Mike Martin is relishing the rules, to be honest. You have Mark Hare still playing great football. O'Mannion's a threat in there with regards to goals as well. They're in good shape, like, and if they just probably need a small reset from the Monavea game. But like, I would say going into that game, I would probably say I'd have Miltown probably as favourites going into that game. I would say, like, they haven't been beaten. It'll take a good team to beat them as well in the championship, I feel.
If we look then at Group 3, I was in Kenny Park yesterday. Tuam Stars 3-10, Down 6 points. People might accuse me here of playing the error card, but I'm seriously concerned about Down as a senior team at the minute for next year. Scored 6 points yesterday. It was a 2-6 against Clare Galway in round 2. Damien Comer not on the pitch yesterday. Stephen Curley as well, who would have been on the Galway under 20 panel, he wasn't on the pitch, as well as the two Kilcommons. I get those are big losses, but hard to know. Will Down have Comer for the relegation semi-final? I would say it's probably unlikely at this stage, considering we haven't seen him. But I don't know, Patrick Mark. I'm concerned as an Down man now at the minute.
I would be as well. I saw you twice. This year we played us back in the league match and the league semi-final, and even just between those two matches, you see a bit of a decline, and obviously things have gotten worse. That Michael's game is massive. I fancy whoever loses between Michael's and Down will go down. But yeah, it's tough to turn the tide. But yeah, the big man, if he's anyway able to get out on that pitch, he has to get out there. We don't know what the injury is, what's going on, but I'm sure if he's half decent at all, he will be out there, and he'll change the focus of attack for Down and take a bit of pressure off the likes of Frankie Burke.
Yeah, it's the thing with it now. There's such a reliance on Frankie Burke to get the scores. As I mentioned there, 2-6 and 6, like, it's just scoring returns that aren't going to win these relegation games, I think it's safe to say.
Yeah, no. Like, that's bad enough in the old days, and now it's with the 2-pointers and this wind, you should be getting 6 points worth of 2-pointers alone, never mind in a whole game. But yeah, it's a massive game, and like, it's been a while now since you've been down there, and it's tough. It's tough down there. It's preparation, like going training tomorrow night. It's bad. It's going to get dark. It's going to get wet. It's cold. Playing in that when you're not used to it, it's not good. That's where I think, like the Barn and Monavea, they've been down there, done that before. I'd fancy those two to come out, and I think between Michael's and Down, yeah, it could be a bad, tough old year for them.
How would you describe, lads, training now for this relegation game from your own experiences?
The worst. Terrible.
Yeah, listen, it's not easy. Like, well, for us, when we got relegated from senior, like, we were trying to pluck momentum out of somewhere, like, but momentum's such a funny thing. Like, when you're winning, you don't know how to lose, and when you're losing, you don't know how to win. It's gas. Like, everything seems to go against you. You know, it's not a good place to be going into. I suppose Monavey and Breathnach have probably experienced in kind of being in around there for the last while, not like, getting used to kind of them kind of relegation games. For Down, this is a whole new ball game, like, because Down were, they were a good threat there for a lot of the senior championship for a few years. But like, if the main man, if Damien's not really on the field, if you're the opposition management, you're probably looking at saying, if we can close down Frankie Burke, where Down going to get the scores from, like, so it's but on the flip side as well, like, if you look at St. Michael's, Gary Higgins scored 9 points to them yesterday, and they only scored 10 points in total. So Down probably saying the same thing on the other side, saying if we can close him down, we have a good chance of beating them. Like, so it's just going to be interesting. Even if they could get Damien on the field for 15-20 minutes, like, it'd be enough almost to swing it, I'd say.
Is the challenge, or sorry, Patrick?
That's the way you have to look at it. Like, to win intermediate, you need to win 6 games, and that's tough going. You only have to win 1 game here to stay senior, and that's where we always looked at it. So, like, that's a county final pretty much, like, and there is at least a second chance, but that's the way you have to look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say the challenge really is to lift morale, because it can't be high at this time of the year where you're playing these relegation semi-finals.
Yeah, and you just have to, it's like it's a dogfight, you're not going to rely on your confidence and your skill. It's literally going to be a dogfight, and more than likely it's going to be wet, windy. You might be taken out of Pearse Stadium, or these bigger stadiums might be brought somewhere, which ain't as nice, which we've been brought to plenty places before. But yeah, it's just going to be a dogfight, and it's going to be whoever wants it more.
Yeah. Hoping for a big result anyways in that semi-final against Michael's there for Down. Tuam yesterday, they arrested Rory O'Connor and Shane McGlinchey, but I was looking yesterday at the Tuam Stars front 6, and I had front 6 of Cormac McWalter, Jamie Murphy, Ben O'Connell, Luke Davin, Jack Grugan, and Brian Mannion. Luke Davin with 3-2, really impressive. But this Tuam team are building very nicely this year.
Well, I suppose for Tuam, they've been knocking on the door now the last few years. Jamie Murphy has been around since I've been playing adult football, like, and he's still playing some unbelievable stuff, I have to say. Like, he's carried the fight for Tuam for such a long time, and for him to have such good quality players around him now, like, he must be sensing that they could be on the verge of winning the county final, winning Frank Fox for the first time in a very long time. Like, I think for Tuam, I'm not saying it's now or never, like, but they have a great opportunity. They have a great opportunity. They have the mix of youth, experience, players that have been playing the last 5-6 years playing adult football. Like, I'm not saying it's time for them really to kind of lay down their marker. Like, who they get in the quarter final, they should be looking to kind of almost swat them aside and saying, okay, listen, we want to play Corfin, we want to play whoever we get our hands on, Salt Hill, we're raring to go, like, But again, they've topped the group. They have an extra 2 weeks rest as well. They can get a bit of scouting done, to see these games. So it's going to be good for them. I think they have a great chance of making the county final. I don't know after that, but I think for me, I would say that they could go a long way.
They have to take out a top dog though, don't they? Like you consider if they're going to go all the way, they have to take out a Mike Cullen and Kerfin or Salton and Clare, obviously, to win the county title. That's something they haven't been able to do in previous years.
Yeah, and I suppose, like, if you look at Montbellew when they bet Kerfin a few years ago, I know they didn't, like, obviously Mike Cullen were waiting for them then as well, like, but it gave Montbellew that chance to go back, and they ended up winning their county final then. They got their big scalp at the time, which was huge for them, like, and gave them huge confidence. Like, and that's what I think this Tuam team needs now, is they need to go and beat one of the big dogs and say, right, this is our county final. We aren't leaving it behind this time, Otherwise, they're going to go look back on it and say, you know what, they can have regrets or whatever, like, but they don't want to have any excuses in the next 3 or 4 years, like, because Gary O'Donnell is there, Jimmy Murphy's there, but they can't play forever either, like, and those lads are desperate to get their hands on a county medal.
Yeah, even Jamie Murphy's role yesterday, like 11, and he was everywhere, still going as strong as ever was. Where do you feel Tuam Stars are in the contenders, Patrick Mark?
Oh, they're definitely top four. I think they have all the tools. What has let them down in the past is probably their like game day intelligence. Like two of the smartest teams out there are Moycullen and Corofin. I think Tuam will have to match that in-game intelligence to beat them. Because like they have the power, they have the pace, they have the scores now. Jamie Murphy's not the vocal point anymore. They have loads of weapons around him. And they have a bit of a squad now, like the rest of the couple of players there at the weekend. So they definitely have lads come off the bench as well. But yeah, I think it's just if they can match or even beat that like match day or in-game intelligence of Moycullen or a Corofin, they definitely have the rest of the tools to go all the way.
Yeah, even younger players yesterday as well. Keane Mitchell, really impressive at wing back there. Ronan Connor and Connor Heenan around the middle too. So there definitely is younger players coming through. Patrick Merrick, Dunmore McHale's dismantling of Claregal yesterday, 216 to 112. I know you have them next, but very impressive.
Yeah, they're just awesome. Like the pace, power, like Shane McGrath running, Jake Slattery running, Matthew Reddington, and then the Costellos. Like, my God, like Let's defense will have their hands full. Yeah, they're playing, I think, to their peak at the moment. And they've been on an upward trajectory over the last 3 years. So hopefully that'll come to an end soon. But they're flying it. Yeah, I was very impressed with them the first night out against Annadown. Probably looking back on it, wasn't as impressive now the way Annadown have played since. But yeah, Clare Galway, like I know it was 112 to 216, but they're way ahead. Way ahead. That scoreline doesn't do them justice at all. I know they got a red card, I think, or Jack Jordan.
Yeah, he was actually very impressive too.
Yeah. So I don't know if that could be overturned or not, but that could be a bit of a loss. You're going into like definitely need the numbers now. With that running game, lads will get tired and fresh legs could make a difference. So he could be a bit of a loss to them.
Yeah, Manus, like they really did stand up yesterday, and like I think everyone's nearly pinpointed Dunmore McHale as that team, I suppose, as a dark horse this year.
Yeah, and I think a lot of credit goes to Alan Glynn as well, to be fair, like, because I have to say he's done some exceptional work with a lot of teams, and the fact that he was the minor winning manager there last, and he's getting around the club teams there, and he's doing such a good job. Like, he's a very, very capable football man. He's so intelligent, like, and I think he's added another level to Dunmore. I think Dunmore were wise to approach him, I would say, because you could just see that their game knowledge has come up a level as well. I know Patrick Mark was on about like Mike Farrer, we see him on the line with Galway. Like, I think Alan Glynn is top class as well, to be fair to him. Like, he's a really excellent coach. And I think Moore are going to have a big battle against them in the preliminary quarter final. Like, but again, you don't know, injuries, suspensions, a lot of things come into those factors as well. Like, so it'll be an interesting game. I think for Moore, the first 15-20 minutes would be huge for them against Dunmore, like, not to let them kind of run away with it at the start, because they seem to be a team, if they get a bit of momentum at all, they just take off, and they're almost no catching them then.
Just on Dunmore, Matthew Reddington, his performance yesterday was exceptional. There's a bit of dog in him, and it's great to see. But he's such a powerful runner. Even yesterday when he got it on a few times, and I know he's a player who's probably at the late 20s stage now. But is he a player that should be looked at for Galway?
Well, Matthew, like, I would have seen Matthew play underage and I'm trying to think, was he on the junior panel there a few years ago in 2018 as well? I think he was, yeah. He's an exceptional player. Like, everybody's known that he's had hamstring issues and he's been away traveling and stuff for that. But like, he's definitely worth a look at. You know, like if he can add something to it, absolutely. Like, you know, just because you're in your late 20s doesn't mean your sell-by date has gone past for inter-county football or anything like that. Like, and I know there's always this thing, oh, we're bringing, if you're from the under-20s, under-21s, that time, like, you know, if you didn't make it, fair enough. Like, but some people develop later. Some people, you know, like Matthew seems to be playing injury-free now, playing some really electric stuff. Like, you know, you can't beat that power and pace. He's a seriously good footballer as well. Like, but that's up to Porrick and his management. Like, you know, they need to obviously reassess and see what's available to them regards their panel and stuff. Like, but definitely if they're looking at lads, and you know, if Dunmore go further in the championship, he's only going to keep putting his hand up, you know, to be, you know, try and get that phone call as well for himself. But he is a very good player.
Patrick Mack, these are the players that should be looked at. Like Manus makes a great point. Just because you're in your late 20s, there's no reason why these players shouldn't be looked at.
Yeah, if he just makes a difference for a year, it could be the difference between an All-Ireland final win and a loss. Like, you know, it's those little margins now that Galway are at. They're just looking for these little gems to add. There's more than Reddington there. Like, I'd have fancy having a look at Shane McGrath as well. He's a monster of a man, pace, power, and can play ball. So there's just one or two more, or those Dunmore lads be definitely having, Porrick might be having a look at next year.
Yeah, Shane McGrath's running there around the middle. It's something else, isn't it?
Yeah, like, and he's an animal in the air as well. I know they use him as a go-to for some of those longer kickouts as well. And then they have like Reddington and Slattery and these lads running off him. But yeah, he's a fantastic footballer.
Yeah. So the way that group finished there is obviously top place Tuam Stars, second Dunmore McHales who play Letchermore, Clare Galway, they finish in third place who play Uachtar, and Annadown bottom place who play St Michael's in the relegation semi-final. So if we look now at Group 2, St James's 13, Mike Cullen 13, Clannon 115, Breathnach 14 points. So the way that group finishes, Mike Cullen in top spot, Clannon second, James is third, Breathnach fourth. Manus, are you frustrated with the result as a James's player? Obviously, Desi pulls an outrageous score over to equalise that game. Now, it didn't really matter too much because James was obviously needed to win that game by 5 to top the group. So they'll obviously have regrets over there, but a big performance from them too.
Yeah, and like, you know, they seem to do well against Mike Cullen. Like, they seem to be able to run them close and whatnot. Like, I don't know, as a player myself, you know, if you have a 2-point lead, you know, you are going to be frustrated, you know, coming off the field if you've drawn the game, like, and you had it in the you know, you had a grass there in your hands, like that. It was, you know, you had the result, and you know, Mike Cullen have snatched the draw, really, like, you know. But for James's, it was a good statement of intent, like, you know, that it's not going to be an easy touch playing against them either. Like, you know, they have good players, like Owen Cannon's a good man on the sideline as well. But like, you know, Paul is still, you know, dictating the game. Jack O'Neill's back playing for them now as well. If you add maybe, you know, Johnny Duane and Dale Masterson back into that as well, you know, they're really good players there as well. So it's going to make a really good preliminary quarter final versus Miltown, you know. But for them, they definitely would have been very frustrated to only draw that game against Mike Cullen, I feel.
Dale Masterson, Manus. I think it was only the weekend people really realised his impact. He gave a massive performance at the weekend.
Yeah, Dale's a really good footballer. Like, you know, he would have been playing football down in Clare, like, and they would have been kind of talk of him that he should have been involved with kind of the Clare senior setups and stuff like that, but never seemed to kind of get a proper run at it or get a real good look at it either. Like, so for James, it's a bit of a coup for them to have a player of that caliber, because when you get somebody like that in there, it's only going to elevate the group, and you know, the quality he brings to it is only going to drive on the younger players and somebody that he might have driven out of that position from the year before too. Like, so that elevates training, it creates competition, it's healthy, but that kind of real top quality player will add a huge amount to a group too.
just from looking at James's, like if you even take it back to that Clannon game, they'll have to have huge regrets now with, I suppose, the way that finished. If they won that Clannon game, considering they're in control, Patrick Mark, but at the same time, it's not really something you can look back at now.
No, you can't. I think they're 9 points up that day, and they got pipped at the end. But they'll be fairly happy with this result. Like they're 8-3 up at half time, and they had played with the wind. Within 6 minutes, that lead was gone. Cullen were a point up after 6. So Cullen went 18 minutes without scoring. So like you mentioned, Masterson there. Like if James's can keep Cullen out for 18 minutes with a wind, and then get Johnny Duan back into that defence as well, they'd have a strong spine. But yeah, I would be worried about Cullen now with 18 minutes without a score, and then their possible over-reliance on Desi at times. And Johnny Maloney as well kicked 2 outrageous 2-pointers, I think one with the left and one with the right. So yeah, I think the running game is slightly gone now with Gallagher gone away. But they do have Peter Cook to come back, so that could open up things again for them.
Carl Clancy have to be happy to get directly into the quarterfinals when you consider the players they didn't have at the weekend: Peter Cook, James McLaughlin, Conor Corcoran, Paul Kelly, Phil McDonough, and Fiachra McDonough going off injured.
Yeah, they've worked on their panel so much this year. A lot of young lads, but they're doing really well. And actually, the 4-week break would suit them, where it might not suit other teams, where they can get a block of training in, and sure, their A versus B games would be just like any championship match, pretty much, I'd say. So yeah,
they will need these players back, though. You take it for quarterfinals.
Definitely, the likes of Cook now and McLaughlin, like you need they're a bit of a small team. I know they had Jared Aver now and Thomas Clark in midfield yesterday, so they are a bit of a smaller team than they used to be. But they do need those big lads around, especially if they get to Pearse Stadium with the wind against possibly a Miltown or one of these bigger teams. They definitely will need some of those back, yeah. And likes Peter Cook just to help out Desi with the scoring. Like it falls an awful lot on him now. He is amazing, but it's easy to stop one, harder to stop 2 lads from kicking, especially around that arc.
Looking at the other results, Clannon 115, Breathnach 14 points, Johnny Heaney with 6 points, 1 2-pointer and a free, and Enda Kelly with 5 points, 1 2-pointer and 3 frees. So Kelly and Heaney kicked 11 out of the 115. The big difference for Clannon in this one, Manus.
Yeah, like it was a big result for Clannon in terms of getting that win against Breathnach. Like Johnny Heaney dictated the game really from the number 6 position, but like they have a few good young players, like obviously Dara Welch really shone the first day against St. James's. But Ronan Cobble has been playing immense football for them too. I have to say, like he's such a Tigers player. Like he always plays on the edge, to be fair to him. Like, and you can't drive that out of him, but he adds such an edge to Clannon. Like he actually kind of puts Clannon on the front foot. The way he plays, like he gets turnovers, he gets tackles in, he gives a lot of that team energy. Like, and when he's on the field and when he plays the full game, he gives Clannon a really good fighting chance, I feel. But they'll be happy with getting the 4-point win. Would they've been happy conceding 14 scores against Breathnach? They probably wouldn't have been. But I suppose it gives them work on going into the preliminary quarterfinals for themselves.
Yeah, they're definitely in a good position at the minute, aren't they, Patrick Mick?
Clannon, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. Like those young lads are really grown up, and like Johnny Heaney has his fingerprints over everything there. He's probably one of the most influential inter-county club players I've seen over the last 5 years. Like he turns up day in, day out for Clannon, like kicking 2-pointers, points off his left, points off the ground. Yeah, he's immense. And then they have that bit of size about them as well with the Welches and Patrick Sweeney and these lads. So yeah, they'll be tough bet. They always are. But this injection of youth that they're after getting over the last couple of years might spur them on a bit more.
Bearing it in, Manus, you could really see the influence of Keane Hernan back straight away from them.
Yeah, like for Breathnach, it's been a real kind of shame that they haven't had Keane Hernan and Kavanagh back until now, really, for themselves, like, because they're just a different team with Keane Hernan in the team, to be fair. Like You know, Barna will be strong in the relegation, but you know they haven't put themselves in a good position either. You know, like I know that they gathered a bit of momentum now against Clannon, but like the scoring power is where Barna might be under pressure. Like, you know, if teams tie down Sean Dunn and Tom Curran, like, you know, it's a big blow for them. Like,
it's the marquee forward, isn't it?
Yeah, that's probably been Barna's, you know, crux for the last, I would say, since DD Fátharta probably stopped playing for Barna. Like, in fairness to DD, when he was playing, he was always able to rack up a score. Like, you know, it didn't matter what inter-county defender was marking him, he was always able to keep the scores high for Barna. Like, but it's that real marquee forward that can just keep doing it week in, week out for them that they really are missing.
Yeah, Oisín Gormley's missing as well there, and he'd be good for 3 or 4 points to help out the likes of Sean Dunn.
Yeah, I think he only came on at the weekend. In fairness, Sean Dunn's taken on a lot of the scoring burden early on in the competition, hasn't he, Patrick Merck?
Yeah, he has. And the thing about that, though, like, it's easy enough to mark one if he had a bit of help. So, like, Cian Hernan back in midfield, you know, Sean Fitzgerald was in midfield. Cian Hernan is a better midfielder than him. So that makes the midfield better already. Then that drops Sean back, that makes the half-back line better. So you have that foundation of a team better, which sets up more for Sean in attack. But yeah, you could do with a bit of help. I know Tom Curran's been good with the frees. But yeah, if they can Oisín Gormley back in the corner there, he's definitely good for a few.
If we look at Group 1 then, Oughterard 111, Montbellier 110. I don't know about you lads, but for me, Oughterard got out of jail in this one. Managed like Kieran Noon, some of the saves he pulled off the weekend, and they definitely had to be thanking him after.
Yeah, like look, it's one that Montbellier probably left behind them, but the shoe on the other foot, Oughterard will be thrilled to get a big win against, you know, one of the traditional kind of big teams in the senior championship in Montbellier, like, you know, so that's going to be huge confidence for them going into playing Clare Galway in a few weeks, like, and you know they have stuff to work on. I've said it, like a lot of teams have things to work on, but like they're really good players. Like, you know, like in fairness, the Tierneys are excellent. The Lees are excellent. Eddie O'Sullivan's still playing some really good football. Kieran Noon had a massive game for them in goals as well. Like, you know, so they have very good players there. Like the Monaghan's are there too. Like they're a team that kind of, I'm not saying they're at the peak of what as a team they can be, like, but they have a lot of players the right age. Like they don't have too many young players and they don't have too many old players either. Like, so, you know, they be probably saying themselves, we could get to a quarter final, and you know, all bets are off then really in a quarter final for them. You know, it depends on the day, because they do have that scoring power and they have that quality to get goals as well, to be fair.
Eric Lee, returning man, is his influence shouldn't go under the radar. Scored 3 points, and even the way he pops the ball to Niall Lee for ultimately the winning goal, which got them over the line by a point. It was a great pass too, the way he just got it to him.
Yeah, but like Eric and Niall have been playing great for Oughterard for years and years and years. And I know that, I suppose, Matthew gets a lot of the plaudits in terms of, obviously he is the inter-county player and everything like that. But when Oughterard were going well, and even when they're in the intermediate championship and everything like that, like the Lees were something else. Like, you know, they were always a threat. Like they were always capable of getting goals, magic points. We actually played them in the year 2018 in the stadium, like, and they went to town on us. We were lucky to actually come up with a draw in the group stage game, like, but it was the two Lees that absolutely ripped us apart that day. And you know, they're really good players, really, really good club players. And you know, if an opposition manager is going to be looking at Oughterard, like they have to be wary that they're going to have to put good players on the two boys.
You'd have to be devastated in one sense, Patrick Mark. Owen Finnerty gets himself back from Australia. Really impressive in the first half. I think he was causing Oughterard plenty of problems. Ding was off injured in the first half, and I think he was pictured then going up the steps with crutches for the second half.
Oh, I didn't know it was that serious now. But yeah, massive loss. Like, it's kind of a price you pay though when you're out of that high quality football for a while. It's very tough coming back into it. Like, look at my own club, Matson Barrett, after coming back from a cruciate for a long time. Like, his body was fine for a couple of months, and next thing is it breaks down, and like, so that happens. But that's a massive blow to them, because again, like Barry McHugh's been taking a lot of the burden on top there for Montbellew, and double the trouble if you had Owen Finnerty up there. But yeah, he's a massive loss for them.
Barry McHugh's goal chance, then Leo Donnellan has a goal chance, which just skies over. Like I think Montbellew will have huge regrets over them. I think McHugh misses a 45 after that too. Like they definitely had the chances to go and win that game.
Oh, they did, yeah. Like the two saves, I think the second one especially was unbelievable from Kieran Noon. But again, like they've improved since last year. I think they're in a better place going into the preliminary quarterfinal than they were last year as well. They played Clannon. They won't be afraid of them. Again, another 50-50 match. But yeah, I think Fergal Donald's done a good job there, and they'll be hard bet.
Looking at the other game then in Group 1, Salthill 14, Michael's 11. Patrick Mark, is there a question mark over Salthill given the way they got over Michael's at the weekend, or is that me reading too much into this?
No, I think that's possibly reading too much into it. Like they were out Tomo and Finnerty. And then like the scorers were like, Evan Nolan, Mark Mannion, Rob Walser, Paddy Kiss, these lads that you wouldn't rely on day to day. So if like the likes of Matthew Thompson, Daniel Flaherty, these lads have those lads to back them up, they're in a really strong place. They've a really good squad. Very impressed with the Powers, Jack and Charlie. Salthill, I think they'll have a big say in this championship. If they can get Tomo and Rob Finnerty back fit. And that's a big if. They haven't played now in a couple of weeks. I don't think Finnerty's played at all this championship, has he?
Hasn't played a full game. I think he got a few minutes against Montbellew, but no, he hasn't played a full game in this championship yet.
Yeah, and then there's 4 more weeks now till they're out again. So, as an inside forward, you want to be playing, you want to be getting that ball into your hands under pressure, and it's tough place to come into without game time under your belt. So that's the only worry I'd have for Salthill. But if they can get those two back fit for a quarter final, and then you'd expect them to get through to probably play one of the big dogs in the semi-final.
Yeah, 14-10 there. Sorry, a correction on my behalf there. But as you mentioned there, Tomo and Rob, like they'll have to be two players, man, as the Salthill and one back for the quarterfinal.
Yeah, and there is a question mark really over Salthill as well. Like a lot was expected from them last year. In the county semi-final, and they didn't show up. Now, I'm not saying they didn't show up. I don't think they were allowed to play either. In fairness, they were really bullied off the pitch that day. Like, so there is that question mark over them. I know on paper they have unbelievable players, senior county footballers there. Like, sure, they're the envy of most teams in the county. Like you're going to need Rob Finnerty on the pitch fit. I think if they're going to win the county final, they're going to need Tomo fully fit. And they could need him on the pitch as soon as possible, I think, if they are going to try and win that county final. But yeah, I would have just a question mark over them myself, like, in terms of do they have the real fight in them to go and win that county final, because, they haven't been electric so far in the championship. But again, maybe they're trying to peak later on for the kind of September, October months as well. But it's going to be interesting to see who they get in the quarterfinal and what sort of performance they put out.
I'm with you there, man. I put too much stock in them last year, so I'm sort of playing it safe now this year.
Fair enough.
On Michael's, Manus, they'll take plenty of positives. Gary Higgins missed the first two games, and just shows the influence of having him back.
Yeah, and it comes down to getting sent off in a championship game before from like kind of set Michael's back. Like Michael's have lost an awful lot of players as well. Like after Eamon Brannigan's such an influential player, and he was so influential for their promotion campaign last year from the intermediate, to not really have him is a huge blow to them. But they will take confidence from it. They have been there. They know the dogfight that's ahead of them. Again, I wasn't actually sure was it a group stage or semi-final and final until actually today. So they can gear up for one game and try to really get that scalp. Like they'll be looking at Annadown saying they're there for the taking no more than Annadown are looking at Michael saying this game is there for them too. Like, so that's going to be such a huge game that I think if I was to look at the two semi-finals, I would say that even the loser Monavea and Barna would probably go in to the final and be still kind of favourites or confident enough to win that last final game, I think, against either Annadown or Michaels. Like, so it's a huge game for Michaels.
Just before we move on to look at the intermediate action over the weekend, Patrick Merrick, at this present moment, who are you backing to win the senior championship?
That's a good question. I like yourself now. I was all for Salt Hill last year, and they let me down. But I would fancy them. I'd fancy them this year. Yeah.
What do you think the difference is going to be this year?
I'd hope they'd learn from last year. That's the main thing. I think a few of the younger lads are a year older. I think Matthew Thompson has gone on to a different level. I don't think they rely as much on Rob and Tomo. But if you had them back fit, that's obviously a bonus. I just think they're powerful. They can defend, they can attack. Really impressed their goalkeeper, Donald O'Sullivan. In goal, and with his kickouts and in from dead balls as well. So at the moment, they would be my favourites.
Who are you backing, Manus?
I really think that Tuam have a great chance this year. I think for Tuam, the last few years, they haven't had enough firepower around Jamie Murphy, and I think he actually has that firepower around him now, that teams actually have to put more of their man markers in on Mannion, McWalter, Krugan, that it actually frees him up more, and he's actually even more influential now, I think, for Tuam, because he's so freed up. I think they're solid all over the place. They have great running power. They have a good keeper in Darragh Forkin as well. They're just. I think it's their time. I think it's now or never really for Tuam if they are going to go in that county final. So I'm going to say that they're probably my number one pick so far, from what I've seen and how the championship is going.
Great stuff. Looking at the intermediate championship, Manus, I have to ask you, how was it coming up against your former team at the weekend? They obviously got one over on you.
Oh yeah, look, listen, it was nothing to me really. Like, I'm fully concentrated on playing for Spittle this year. Like, so that's all gone out the window. Like, probably for ourselves, it's disappointing that we probably lost the game in terms of momentum and everything like that. Like, but for us as a club, the 6-week break for lads with regards injuries is a real positive. Like, we had a few knocks coming off against Glenamaddy, and to go into that last game where there's no pressure on us to win it, and it gives other lads valuable game time that have been come back from injuries too, like the likes of Milo Curran came in there, had a really good 25 minutes for us against Carrow. So the fact that we could rest, Liam O'Callaghan and Liam O'Connell picked up a knock against Glenamaddy is a real positive for us. Like, again, some people might say the break is too long and you're probably looking for a challenge and stuff. Probably for ourselves, it's about getting our bodies right and throwing a real good launch at this quarter-final that's ahead of us now.
Obviously, a 4-week break there for yourselves for that quarter-final, but you were obviously down a few yesterday. Finian obviously got sent off in that game against Glenamaddy, but even looking at Carrow, Ethan the pair at wing back seemed to be really impressive. Fergal O'Shea, Fionn O'Keneal. That'll have to give them confidence too.
Yeah, it will. It'll give them massive confidence now. James Fátharta was actually back in goal to them. He's back from travelling there, like, so that was the big addition to have like your number one keeper back as well in terms of kickouts and just confidence around shot stopping and everything like that. Like, so that will give them confidence going into that game versus Gabriel's, like, because it was badly needed after the trimming they got against Kilconnelly, and they were well bet that day versus them, in terms of the running power and everything that Kilconnelly had and firepower, that they really struggled. Like, so, they'll be confident going into the Gabriel's game, but they'll be nervous too at the same time because they were there 2 years ago as well, and they probably expected to get out of the relegation and were caught. And ultimately, like, it's no more than the senior championship. There's plenty of chances to stay up in senior and intermediate, like, and ultimately if you don't, you're just not good enough for that grade for that year. Like, so they'll be going all guns out now trying to beat Gabriel's and trying just to solidify their intermediate status for 2026.
Looking at the other game then, Kilconnelly 213, Glenamaddy 111. A big win for Kilconnelly, Patrick Mark. It's 2 wins out of 3 for them now in that group.
Yeah, they've really picked it up since last year. I think Prendergast has come back, which is massive for them. He's a talented player. Um, Kilconnelly probably were disappointed last year in their performance in the championship, but they'll be right there again this year, and they will be hard bet with Niall Daly, Prendergast, Mannion back to the fore again. Like they're there and thereabouts. Kilnamaddy, I thought a few years ago they were going places, but things seem to have stalled there the last year, 18 months. So I don't know if they've missed their boat now, but I'd fancy Kilconnelly there and thereabouts again by the end of the year.
Mannion 5 points at the weekend. Niall Daly a goal, obviously coming up with big scores. 1-5 out of the 213 for them at the weekend.
Yeah, they're massive and they turn up day in day out for them. But they're just so hard bet. They're always at you. We always had massive problems with them. I know even when I was with Aaron had massive problems with them. But yeah, they're just a sticky team, and this time of year always suits them.
It just shows the value in getting over that first game against Kilconnelly for ye, Manus.
Yeah, and that win against Kilconnelly gave us as a team huge confidence because after we went on the championship last year and we lost our first round and it put kind of pressure on us, like we didn't top the group or anything like that. So we knew that if we bet Kilconnelly, the game against Glenamaddy was probably the table topper for us. Because in fairness, Kilconnelly probably missed a few chances against ourselves the first day out. Like they dropped a few short in the first half. No more than ourselves. We were poor for about 20-25 minutes that first half, to be fair. But the first game was a huge win for us as a team, and to kickstart our intermediate championship campaign. But Kilconnelly have gone probably from strength to strength after that game. I have to say they really regrouped well. Like I seen them against Carrow, and I have to say they were very, very impressive. Like whatever video analysis that they would have done versus ourselves, in terms of mistakes that they probably made, they quickly fixed that and really regrouped and put in a seriously impressive performance. And they've got 2 wins in a row in the championship now, so they have momentum going to them that prelim quarterfinal.
Yeah, I even think for Glenamaddy, it was a tough day out for them against Sheed. They obviously only kicked 6. They kicked 111, so it's obviously an improvement there. They got McDara Gurdy back as well, which is a big boost. I think Connor, after he was carrying an injury into that one too, did play some part as well. So they want to tidy that injury up. But an improvement there for them, obviously, in the intermediate football championship. So as you mentioned, Spittle, they go straight through top spot. Second, Kilconnelly. Third, Glenamaddy. And Oncarua head for the relegation. Looking at Group 3 then, Caltra 115, Menlaw 1-8. Since that Caltra surprising defeat, I suppose, for a lot of people, Patrick Merrick in the first game against Kilkern, they've really got things back on track too.
Yeah, I think that was a bit of an ambush on day one. But Kilkerran can burn very well that day. Yeah, they're back up in motoring again. I didn't think they could have as good a year as they did last year. I think they're a bit of a surprise packet last year, but they have a couple of quality forwards and they can do damage on any day. They're going up against Breathnach now, which is going to be a tight match. So yeah, it's not easy for any of those teams. But they do have possibly one of the best forwards at intermediate level, Alan Nocton. He's a good man for putting up big scores. So yeah, they did well.
Yeah, it was really the Alan Nocton and Sean King show once again. It nearly feels like it is every week at this stage.
But they're consistent, and that's it about it. It's everyone knows what they have, and it's still hard to stop them.
Yeah, yeah. As you mentioned there, it's. I think it's the draw I was looking at too in the prelim. That Calcio Brando's game is going to be something else.
Yeah, I think that's the toughest one to call. All the ones you think you'd almost have a favourite in all of them, but that's going to be even money, I'd say. Again, I think it's those 2 forwards. Can Branno's defence stop them? I don't know. But again, Branno's a good forward as well. So Caltra's defence stop Branno's forwards. We'll see. But yeah.
Clifton got over by 1 then against Kilkerran Manus. It was in one of these group games, obviously. Clifton knew they're heading for relegation. Kilkerran knew they were topping the group, but a good win for Clifton nonetheless.
Yeah, a very good win for Clifton, and a badly needed confidence boost for themselves. To be honest, they got to a quarterfinal last year, pushed Glenamaddy all the way in that quarterfinal, and probably would have been hoping things would have gotten better for them this year. Like, that they might have made another prelim quarterfinal, kind of really solidify themselves up an intermediate. But probably for Kilkerran Clonberne, I'd say they would have been disappointed. I don't know if they had made many changes or anything from that. But even for themselves, no more than ourselves, they probably would want to keep that momentum going. Because winning's contagious, and you don't want to lose that kind of that winning feeling either.
It's funny, isn't it? Kilkerran, yourselves, and Brendan's all with 100% records going into the weekend.
Yeah. Well, it looks like that every team had rested loads of players, and that probably wasn't the case either. We are long enough that you'll be waiting a few weeks for the games. In fairness, too, so. Yeah, it was an interesting one. But Clifton were dangerous. Jerry Gibbons is a very, very capable forward on his day. He's able to rack up a score. Well, look, Kilkerran Clonberne are in the quarterfinals, and they're going to be delighted to be there. And for any team that's going to come up against them, Johnny Ryan is racking up scores still for them. Brian Miskell's playing well for them. Conor Abbott's back playing for them too. So. They're going to be dangerous on their day. On any given day, they can rack up a score, and there'll be no easy game there for whoever they get.
If we look at Group 2, then Illinois 17 points, Cashran 8. Illinois go straight through to the quarterfinals. Patrick Mark, obviously, when you're with Illinois and you didn't have Colm O'Brien on, he's back with them this year. You're seeing his influence. A big win for them. But considering the last 2 days out the way, what Illinois have scored, it's been really impressive.
Yeah, they really have. I've actually never seen their team so strong on paper in the last 5 or 6 years. It's not just Colin Tyler's back fully fit after a cruciate. You have Ben and McDonagh back from a cruciate, and then you have like Ross O'Dearron, who's a year older, bit stronger, a bit more experience under his belt. But yeah, no, they're flying it at the moment, and this 4-week break actually will do them the world of good, because they can get a good block of training done together now over the next month or so. But they will be there and thereabouts again, after their little blip last year.
How challenging is it for them? I know I had Patrick O'Donnell on, and he's talking about where they train and everything and how it can change. But how challenging is it? But I suppose when you were in charge, you probably see the commitment they're willing to give.
Yeah, they're a phenomenal bunch. It's mad. For instance, they'll be probably training now Wednesday night in Galway, possibly Loch George. So lads will be coming from Inishmore, lads will be coming from Limerick, lads will be coming from Dublin for that training. They'll get together once a week for the first 3-4 months of the year. They don't really start training until summertime properly. They do pods, but they're great for their gym work. They're great for their individual fitness work. They just put everything on it. There's not a doubt in my mind, if they were like any other club where they could train together Tuesday, Thursday, weekend, they would have been senior a long time ago. But they are punching above their weight year in, year out. But I think possibly this year could be their year. They're getting
you think so?
Yeah, they're getting players back at the right time. I think that's their first time they have their full team out. They're a well-balanced team. I know like Spittle and Michael Brannox have these good forwards, but they've good defenders. Colin Bryan, Colin O'Hearn on midfield, and then Sean McCurran is just pivotal to them. He makes everyone around him better. And then along with Stephen Joyce, they have Ciara Murphy on the line there as well, who's also Mike Cullen. Good football head in them. I think they will be there and thereabouts, and they actually are my favourites. They weren't a month ago, but they are now.
That's interesting to hear. And Curfin B, Cashran, Gabriel's second, third, and fourth there. Illinois and top. Kevin Alley's 2 yellows had a big influence in that Illinois and Cashran game, but Curfin B, it's been interesting, man. It haven't lost anyone too high profile yet from this team.
Yeah, and we played them last year in the championship, and I think it was only 2 points or something in it. Curfin's B team is probably, on paper, there's a lot of senior players playing intermediate football that just can't break into into the Corofin senior team or just gotten a bit too old for it at the moment. Like, but like, if you see Ronan Street playing intermediate football, midfield, like, you know that you're going to be up against it, like, because he's been a phenomenal player for Corofin and Galway for numerous years. Like it's always interesting with Corofin. They fear no one. Like, I think the big win for them was against Carristrán. I have to say, like, that was I think, Carristrán would have been kind of targeting that to get that result there in the second round. But, they're a dangerous team, and Glenamaddy will need to be really well tuned in because Corofin are more than capable of getting a scout there.
Gabriel's really looked like the team at the minute who look like favourites to make the drop, just going on the results.
Yeah, going on results, you would say that, like, but the only thing is, if they got a few of the lads that are playing hurling out for one game, anything could happen as well. Like, but it's hard, to see any real positives for them at this stage. Like, it would take a huge performance for them to beat Carrow. I think a huge performance. And I think if they lose that, they're in trouble. Like, because on the other side, Clifton and Moore there, and both teams are, they're good teams as well. Like, so it'll be that Carrow game is going to be a huge one. And again, it could come down to conditions on the day too. Could have a massive say in it as well. Like, it'll come down to what team holds their nerve too. But I think Carrow will want to get off to a fast start there and just not to give Gabriel's any kind of confidence in that game.
Are you surprised by Carristrán so far?
I am. I'm surprised, and like the only thing I will say is they're lacking firepower. That's their big thing. Like, they have good players and everything like that, but Ronnie Kennedy needs help. In there, like, he needs somebody else inside with him that can rack up the scores as well. Like, obviously everybody knows how good of a player Johnny McGrath is, like, but he's only one man. He can only do so much from where he's playing on the field. Like, he's not able to score the 2-4, 2-5 that is needed in intermediate championship. But against Kilconnelly, I think it's a big ask for them. I think it's a big ask. I think it's two teams going in the opposite directions, to be honest. I could be 100% wrong as well at the same time, but I think Kilconnelly might have too much for them. I think Daly's playing some exceptional football. Paul Mannion is playing great. Prendergast playing really well. They're just it will take a good team to beat them, I think.
Yeah, I think Alan Morris has been a massive loss for them there, too. Particularly, probably would have been pushed into attack, I think. But at the preliminary draw there, Kilconnelly, Carristrán, Menlough, Cortoon, Curfin B, Glenamaddy, Calcher, Miho, Brannock's there in the preliminary quarterfinals. Brendan's, Kilkerran, Spiddle, Illalarn, straight through, straight through to the Intermediate Football Championship quarterfinals there. And then Clifton, Moore, Mary, Oncarua, Gabriel's in the relegation semi-finals. A good result for Moore, Mary. Obviously, I think we were all sort of predicting them, Patrick Mark, to be there at the latter stages of the championship. It hasn't worked out for them, but to get a result and rack up 4-11 against Brendan's has to give them confidence too.
Oh yeah, well, and they are a confidence team. Probably an over-reliance on goals. I know Brendan's probably had Carl Healy, Paddy Downey rested. I know they came on, but you can't really take much out of these games. Teams are top, they're just playing away in this weather as well. Probably shouldn't be down there, but they are. So they'll go on to Clifton with confidence now after that win. And I probably do fully expect them to go through against Clifton. Clifton last year were like very defensive, and with these new rules, they just can't be as defensive as they were last year. So I don't think it's suiting them. But I do fancy Moore to get through now or to stay up against Clifton.
Yeah, even Rory Cunningham at the weekend again. He started 2-3, I think it was. He finished up with.
Yeah, and then again, like, he does have help from the likes of Carl Healy and Paddy Downey in these, so he's a quality player. But I think Brendan's are another team who are well balanced. They have their few forwards, but they can defend as well. So I do like to look at them.
Nothing to separate Corton and Brannock's there. Just to mention, I do get plenty of grief about my predictions, but that was one I backed as a draw, so I'll take the credit there, Manus.
Yeah. Well, you had to be right eventually, Paul. But yeah, look, they're two well-seasoned teams. I know Branners have had an influx of new younger players and everything like that. Like, but they've always been kind of hard to beat. No more than Cortoon and Shamrocks. Like, having Joey Donlan back, Adrian Verdi coming on for them is huge as well. Like, really, to be honest, I would have been in the same boat as yourself, Paul. I wouldn't have been able to actually call that game. I probably would have had it down as a draw myself too. But it's the only thing I would say about it was a very low scoring game, even though like Browns had their firepower back with Clean O'Curran and Mike McGarrett was unmarkable only 2 weeks previously. Like, so that game against Caltra, they're going to need to rack up a score because Alan Upton and Sean Kane they're going to get scores. They're going to get scores. So they're going to have to match Caltra's firepower if they're going to have a say in this intermediate championship still.
For sure. And just to look at the junior championship before we finish, the way the North sits at the minute is Williamstown on top with 5 points, Killearn second, 5 points, Hepford third, 4 points, Ballinasloe, they've 2 points with their victory over Athenry, and then Athenry, they sit bottom of the table there on 0 points. A round left to be played, so Killearn, they've played all their games, and it's Athenry, Williamstown, and Hepford, Ballinasloe. Manus, how do you see this played out? You obviously had a big battle with Killearn last year.
Yeah, and listen, Killearn were probably unlucky not to win that day, to be honest. Like, it just took a wonder point from Stephen O'Brien to bring it to extra time. But I have to say, we played earlier on in the league. Now, we were missing a good few players, but I was impressed with them. I probably expected them to probably kick out more in that kind of championship as well down there. But I would think that they're probably still the strongest on the north side. I know that they only have the 4 points there, but I would say that they're going to have a big say in the Northport Championship this year. They just have firepower. Paul Cunningham is back for them now properly this year too, which was, he was missing last year because he had gotten the transfer as well to the States. Like, so for him to be back, like, he's such a quality player, like, especially down at junior level. He's not going to come up against too many inter-county backs down there, in fairness.
Yeah, so the way that works is whoever's top goes straight through to the North final, and then second and third they play in the North semi-final. So it's looking like at the minute that Williamstown will top it, and you could have Killearn and Hepford in the semi-final. Looking at the West, then Father Griffin's Aero, they're on top with 3 points. Carnacashel second with 2 points. Clonbur, they're on a point, and Renville they're on bottom with 0 points. A few rounds still to go there. Who would you be tipping on the west side of things, Patrick Mark?
Tipping Carna, but I think they got beaten on the weekend there, which was a bit of a surprise to Father Griffin's Aerogue. But I fancy them. They were unlucky last year coming up against a Carrow team who were very strong. But they've been building for the last couple of years. A few young lads coming through. So I'd fancy them for the West, anyways. Maybe not so much for the county. Northport teams there looking strong, but I'd fancy Carn for the West.
Yeah, and just to mention as well, that the winners of West and North, they play in a county final, and then they play the second team's winners of their junior championship in the junior county final to get promoted to intermediate there. So that's how the junior championship is structured. But that's all we do have time for on today's show. Thanks to Manus and Patrick Mark for coming on to this week's podcast.